Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the show. Today, I'm joined by the U.S. Army Brigadier General Jose R. Burgos, who's retired after 37 years in the military. It's an honor to have you on the podcast today, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Danny. Thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit about my life in the military and maybe a little bit about my personal life.
Absolutely. So, do you mind giving a quick introduction for the listeners?
Yes, again, my name is Jose R. Burgos. I'm, like Danny mentioned, I serve in the Army for 37 years, 9 months, and 7 days. Not that I was counting. I've been, I'm a father of three kids, have five grandsons. I live in South Carolina after I retired, but like I said, I started in the military when I was very young, I'm 17 years old, and my plan was actually to stay just for a couple years in the military, get a little bit of experience, and go back to corporate America. Go back and inject myself into one of these big companies, but I forgot to look at the calendar and look at the years that I was serving, and 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. The next thing you know, I'm getting retirement orders after so many years.
That's a nice story. I also had another retired general officer on the show who shared a very similar story. They didn't want to stay around for too long, but they fell in love with the craft and they stayed for 40 years. So, from what I learned about your biography, you were born in Puerto Rico. You studied in the college. You actually have your bachelor's and master's. So, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, I joined the military because I was kind of surrounded by military people. It's funny because my grandfather, my father, myself, and one of my sons come to realize that we all came to Fort Jackson and did our basic training. Four generations that went to basic training in Fort Jackson. So um, I remember when I was around 12, maybe 13 years old, I was one day I was shining the boots of my uncle, and I decided, you know what, I kind of like doing this, and I was looking at how he was coming back from work every day in uniform, and I that kind of interested me a little bit. So uh, on my senior year, when the recruiters go to the school and they they bring the test, the ASVAB test, uh, I was able to get a good score. So I decided, well, maybe I should join the Army Reserve, because my plan was actually to go to college and maybe do a couple years in the reserve and go back, like I said, go back to corporate America. But after I went to my basic training and AIT, I decided, why don't I combine the military with college? So that's when I decided to join the ROTC program at the University of Puerto Rico. And my plan all along was actually I kind of like the biology. I used to, not anymore, but my plan was actually to see if I could continue with a medical career. I wanted to be a doctor. But like I said, I joined the Army Reserve, and I was assigned to a transportation unit, a transportation battalion. And when they started on my last year, that's when the Army said, the different branches that you're going to get. Instead of medical service, which was actually the branch that I requested, they uh, they gave me transportation corps. So I said, well, maybe being a doctor is not for me. So I became a transporter. Later in the military, the transportation, there's a couple of branches that branch into one, like transportation, the ordnance, and the quartermaster. At some point in the military, they combine those three, especially after you finish your captain major career. You become a logistician. So I became a logistician after I finished my advanced course in transportation. And And from there, like I said, 3 years, 5 years, and next thing you know, 37 years in, I'm retiring. Um, One of the things that I mentioned is I started to like the military. I started. It was for me. Well, let me do a couple years, and I tried it, and probably get out after 5 years. But I mean, not every year was a good year. Not every day was a good day. But for the most part, I enjoy working in the military. I enjoy the relationship, the bonding that you get to develop with your subordinates. So that started to grow into my day to day, and I decided, well, if I want to stay, I'm gonna have to be competitive. So that's when I decided, in everything that you do, you try to do your best, try to be um, the best at your profession, and trying to get the hard jobs, the jobs that nobody wants. Those are the jobs that are going to give you that edge over that other peer. Because in the military, as you start growing into your military ranks, you start competing against your peers, and anything that you can do that can give you an edge when you go to a promotion board. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking I got to be as prepared or even better prepared than my other peers in order to succeed in the military.
So it sounds like you were very determined to um, grow in the military to get ranked up and as as it turned out, you became brigadier general. Was it your goal when you went to the military to become a general?
No, not in my wildest dream, Danny. Like I said, my goal was actually to reach the rank of captain and and run away from the army as far as I could. But like I said, after I would say probably after my 6 or 7 year in the military, I said, you know what, maybe this is a career that I would pursue, and I'll see where I can go. A goal that I did have was actually, once I decided to stay and not seeking a way out, was actually to reach the rank of colonel. That was a rank that I was really expecting, and I was able to achieve it. And to be honest with you, um, when I became a colonel, I I left from brigade command uh, with what they told me was going to be my last assignment. So that's why I said, well, what better exiting for me from the military than having a brigade command and then retire into into the pasture, right? But the reality is that after I finished my 2 year command as a brigade commander, I got a call and said, we're going to send you to the transportation regiment. At that time, it was actually for Lee, Virginia, and I became the an advisor for the chief of the U.S. Army Transportation Corps. And but that took me away from the soldiers, and I became an officer that was working in four walls, and I was kind of getting claustrophobic, if you will. And that's when I dropped my retirement papers. And I said, I got to get out of here. So after 1 year working at the regiment, I decided to drop my retirement papers. And I was just counting the days, one day, 2 days. And I remember one Tuesday, out of the blue, I get a call from a general officer and say, "Congratulations!" And I say, "Well, sir, this was actually early May." And I told the general, "Sir, my birthday was back in February. My wedding anniversary is in June. Why are you telling me congratulations? I mean, I do have retirement orders, but they're next year." So the guy said, "Well, you're going to get promoted. The president sent your name to the Senate, and you're going to get promoted to general." And I said, "Sir, I'm retiring. I got retirement orders." And and the general said, "Hey, Colonel, you're not listening to me. you are going to get promoted to general, and you're going to be commanding the U.S. Army forces in Puerto Rico. And then he said, and you're not supposed to tell nobody about this because in the military, when you are about to become a general officer, that anybody can actually make a complaint against you, and that will stop your promotion, and everything will freeze for you until they investigate everything. He did say, the only person you can tell is your wife. And I said, well, that's not the right person for me to tell because I know she's going to call everybody and their brother. So, um, but yeah, I was ready to retire. I was happy as a colonel. I mean, I started as an E1, which is the lowest rank in the army, and becoming a colonel for me was an excellent career. But then having the opportunity to go back to Puerto Rico where I started my military career was a blessing, and I couldn't say no. I mean, that was the pinnacle of my career, and I said, well, I have to go back and serve in my country. Well, it's the United States, but that's where I came from Puerto Rico, and I was able to command the units. I was a senior responsible officer for the Army in the Caribbean. So it was the greatest honor for me to serve with the First Mission Support Command in Puerto Rico.
It's a beautiful story. So, but you still had your retirement orders despite being promoted to brigadier general, right?
No, they were rescinded. I they canceled my retirement order, and I got promotion order and transfer orders to go to Puerto Rico. And after that, I served 2.5 years in Puerto Rico, and then I was assigned to joint base Dix Maguire in New Jersey. That's where I finally retired as a deputy commanding general for the 99th Readiness Division.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. Would you, if you could go back in time, would you do this all again?
Yes, in a heartbeat. Everywhere I go, and people ask me about my military career and my years in the military. Without hesitation, I always say I'll do it all over again. I mean, even if it's starting back as a private, I'll do it all over again.
And to give the listeners and the viewers a better idea on what exactly you did in the army. Thanks for sharing your journey. I've read your military biography and other resources about you. So you were at some point you were deployed overseas and you had to serve overseas, right?
Right, right. I actually deployed 3 times when I was I was recently promoted lieutenant colonel. I was assigned to a transportation brigade and in the port of Shueva in Kuwait. And the mission there was actually to offload and load all the equipment that was coming, that was going to be used in the war. So we were receiving, it was a 24-hour operation, and we were, like I said, offloading and loading ships. One of the things that was really impressive for me was the dedication of everybody that works in the ports, that works with trains, because that's a 24-hour operation, and it was really busy during those years. But everybody had we knew as logisticians that, I mean, the warfighters were counting on us to do our job professionally and with the highest speed, uh, in order for them to have the equipment, the bullets, the food that they needed to continue the fight up north. And the other 2 times that I deployed was actually as part of a staff. Um, I had the opportunity to work in the Joint Movement Center for uh, CENTCOM in Kuwait, and also I was as a liaison from Fifth Army at that time in terms of the redeployment of all the troops and equipment that was actually sent when 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 our forces finally got into Baghdad. At some point, there were discussions about bringing all the equipment that we sent, how we were going to be, retrograding all the equipment back. So they sent a small cell, and we got integrated into the Joint Movement Center to work on the redeployment uh, phase of the fight. But overall, I mean, like I said, I mean, you're away from your family, but the camaraderie and the bonding that you get with your soldiers, it's incredible. And when you're there with the troops, it's the best satisfaction that you can get.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. About leadership, you raced through the ranks, and as you mentioned, you started as the enlisted soldier, and eventually became a one-star general. So how did your philosophy on leadership evolve over the years, and um, did it change significantly as you raced through the ranks and had more subordinates under you? Were there some um, key values or things that were permanent as your career went over the years?
My I I want to say that my leadership style never changed since I was a lieutenant. When I was a lieutenant, I had I was following sometimes mentoring, not officially because mentoring in the military wasn't really good and people were not really paying attention to that. But I remember on my first assignment, I was told as a platoon leader with only like 44, 50 soldiers under my command that I needed to run my platoon as it was a company. And I needed to know the names of my soldiers, if they were married, if they were having kids. I needed to get that relationship going, and I needed to trust my NCO, and all the way up to general, and through my military career from a second lieutenant all the way up to general officer. Uh, Bonding with my NCOs and knowing my soldiers was actually something that I always put my effort was actually to develop that relationship. I wanted my soldiers to see that I was there with them. Uh, at one point, when I was commander, I remember one soldier was that stopped me, and he said that, sir, I for some reason we don't see our platoon leader as much as we see you as a commander, and that actually kind of stood with me because every time that I was talking to my leaders, I was always stressing the importance of being seen by your soldiers, especially when you're like in our case with transportation units, you were supposed to be with the trucks when they were doing the inspection of the equipment. You needed to be there. Not, I didn't want leaders to be leading from an office. They needed to be in the field. So uh, that's something that I stress, and I always stress to all my officers is that they need to develop that relationship with the subordinates, and they have to be there with them. The other thing is talking a little bit about my leadership style is you always have to respect people. Uh, Not because you have a higher rank, you're better than another soldier. You treat everybody with dignity and respect, and they're gonna give you 100%, and you have to give 100% because the people that you have on your left and your right are going to be the people that are going to be willing to sacrifice their life to save your life. So you needed to develop that relationship and bonding. When soldiers are in combat, they're counting on each other, and you have to have their back and they will have your back.
Thank you for sharing your perspective on leadership. That's very insightful. Other thing that I read in your biography or your profile was your motto that says, "Nothing happens until something moves." Do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yes, that's actually the motto of the transportation corps. Nothing happened until something moved. You really think about it. I mean, all the branches in the military are important, but for the warfighters, in order for them to have what they need to fight the war, they need the logisticians. They need to have their bullets. They need to have their fuel and everything logistic. It you have to count on transportation. Every branch is going to brag about the importance of their own branch, right? The quartermaster will say, "Well, you need these because we're important," but how you move the supplies, it's because somebody is planning that for you guys, for the warfighters. The warfighters, when you're briefing a 1, 2, 3 star as a battalion commander, they want to know when their bullets are going to be there, when they're going to be able to use their ammunition to fight the enemy. And there's a lot of preparation behind the scenes, a lot of planning. You have to be perfect on your convoys. You got to plan because you cannot send 50 trucks at the same time. You have to use serial numbers. You have to make sure that they check. There's different checkpoints, and you want to make sure that all the trucks that were supposed to go through that route, they do check on that checkpoint, and you cannot be fighting if you don't have a good uh, coordination and a good planning that is actually most of the time coordinated by the transportation code and the logistics branch as a whole.
Got it. Got it. Makes total sense. You mentioned that at some point you were stuck in an office where you had to be between four walls and do some paperwork that you did not necessarily enjoy as much as being with your troops on the field. Um, Having said that, after you left the military, after you transitioned to the civilian life, how was that process for you? How did you adapt? And are you still in the process of shifting to the civilian life?
No, I retired back in 2018, so I had plenty of time to decompress, and I would say that probably the first 6 months to a year, you kind of miss it. Uh, I Even though I'm retired, I continue to kind of mentor officers. They call me or I interact with them. Um, One of the things that we have the class of 1984 from the University of Puerto Rico, ROTC. Uh, Believe it or not, we still meet once a month via Zoom, and we have meetings in which we discuss, our military careers and this and that and the other. But one of the things that we started doing was, excuse me, that we started engaging with the ROTC classes, the senior classes that are about to graduate, and we starting to try to mentor these cadets, second lieutenants, into what's going to be expected from them in the military. Um, and I go back to mentoring. Why it's important? Because when I was coming through the rank, I mean, I can count maybe one or two officers that I saw as mentors. And but the army, I don't think the army, and this is my personal opinion, uh, not they were not doing a good job in terms of mentoring. Now there's many ways. There's even manuals about mentoring, but in the military, it's so important to mentor officers when they're going through the ranks because at some point you can have an officer that is a star, and when you have a group of officers, uh, uh, most of the leaders can tell this is a star, this is not as good as the other. I mean, they got the talent, they got the skills, but in a group of officers that that particular guy has the potential to become a general officer, and we cannot wait too long into their career uh, uh, to start mentoring because they might say I need this, but the reality is there's some key positions in the military that are really important, in my opinion, in order for you to be a better general officer in the future. And I want to explain a little bit about this. Um, when when you have officers that, for whatever reason, they reach a position in the military and a rank, it's always important that you had, in my opinion, again, that you had a little bit of experience dealing at that level. What I mean is, if you have a brigade commander that have never been a battalion commander, he might be a great officer, but in my view, that person needed to be in the shoes of a battalion commander, in order to be a better mentor for that battalion commander. It will be very hard for me, without being a battalion commander, to be a good brigade commander for the officers, for the battalion commanders, and even the captains, because you're you're senior rating two grades below you. So that's why it's important. I'm sorry, that the mentoring is so important, and we got to make sure that we do good with our officers, and teach them, or not teach them, but kind of guide them into the different key positions, or key punchers positions, I would say, that will make you a better officer in the future.
Mhm. Many thanks for sharing your perspective on mentorship. This is definitely something that comes up a lot, and I totally agree that the right approach to mentoring um, other people is very important, and I think there is always something new to learn
Yes,
about that.
and one thing that I like to add, Danny, is that uh, when I was at one point in my career, I was part of it wasn't a task force, but it was a talent management um, group. Excuse me. And I was a transportation officer that was actually looking at the lieutenant colonels and colonels that were coming up the ranks. I'm sorry, but I remember having this meeting, and we were talking about senior lieutenant colonels and colonels looking at the next assignments and this and that and the other. And I raised my hand and I said, "Listen, I think we're doing good here with talent management, and we know, because at that time we have pictures of all the officers, and we say, okay, this officer is going to be good for this position, this that, I don't know. But to me, it's going to be hard. I was under the impression, for me, was that it was going to be hard for me, as a general officer, to tell a colonel at that level that he needed to do this, that, and the other. And I mentioned to the group, I think we need to relook at how we're doing this, and start looking at the senior captains and majors, because those are the ones that are coming, that we can really impact into their future, and we can really polish their skills in order to make them better general officers. But uh, for me to call an '06 colonel and tell him, I think you should go and do this and that and the other, uh, I mean, if a person would have called me and said, you're already a colonel about to retire, and you're telling me that I should be doing this and that and the other, I would say, I'm already a colonel. Why are you trying to mentor me? What I'm trying to say is, we need it. If we're gonna do a good job with mentoring, and better manage our talent in the military, it's my opinion that we need to start looking lower in the totem pole. I'm talking about, like I said, senior captains and majors, and really mapping their career, uh, especially putting more attention into the officers that we know for sure have the talent and the skills, and from the first time you meet them that they're stars, they're future stars. I think that's one of the things that I was lacking to see uh, when I became part of this talent management group. That we were trying to mentor people that were already at a rank that they they could have said, uh, "I'm done with my military career. I don't need your advice."
Got it. Got it. Got it. Thanks for sharing your perspective. I like to end these podcast episodes with a piece of advice from a guest for um, young boys and girls, maybe in their college, maybe just starting in their military career. What would you tell them?
I would say in the military, uh, there's no limit. Um, Sometimes we internally we shortchange ourselves. Uh, I would say again, like I mentioned in the beginning, you always give you 100%, 200%. You try to be the best at what you do. Try to take the jobs that nobody wants. Um, uh, in my experience, I mean, when I finished one of the required military education, I was always looking at what's going to be next, what's next for me, and I started. I was proactive because uh, in the military, it's always a competition because you're competing with your peers, not only the peers from your university or where you came from, but we're talking about in the entire army, in our case, that is competing for X amount of positions. So you have to give your 200% to become the best that you can in your specialty, and don't be afraid of going directly to your boss and say, I like to have that opportunity. In my personal military career, I remember one time that my Colonel '06 we just had returned from deployment, and he was given another assignment uh, to go back and redeploy again. And at that time, I was the deputy commander for the brigade, and I went to the general and said, "Sir, I know I'm not an '06, but I like to have the opportunity to command the brigade." And he gave me the opportunity. So I was a brigade commander as an '05 lieutenant colonel. But you cannot be afraid of what you know. You have to show that you're willing to take charge, that you're willing to take that responsibility. And that's one of the things that I will always tell people is be proactive, show that you really want it, because at the end of the day you have to want it more than I do. If you want to be a commander, you want to show me that you want to be a commander. And I want to if we still got time, Danny, I'd like to mention this because I was president of command boards a couple times in my military career, and I remember that I knew officers that were in consideration for battalion command, and I remember their names, and in a week uh, we review close to 3,000 records, and I was waiting to see. I will use you as an example. I know Danny. Danny is a great officer. He'll be one of the best battalion commanders that we can have in the military. But I never saw your record in the entire week. And why was that? Because at some point in the army, you needed to opt in to be considered for command. And there was a lot of officers, good officers, that did not put in for command, and that was a shame because and I would say in that particular board, I would say that there were like six officers, lieutenant colonels, that I knew for sure that they would have been excellent battalion commanders, and they would have make it. I'm pretty sure, if not colonel, general officer, 1 stars, but they did not apply for the command board. So if they didn't want it, there's nothing I could have done for them. You have to want it. Uh, so again, going back to the closing remarks here is do your best, show that you want it, and fight for it because in the military, it's always a competition, and you want to have that edge over that other officer, over that other peer.
Hmm. Many thanks for sharing that, and I can add that a very similar approach mindset. It works exactly like that in business and career. In my personal experience in corporate America, it's absolutely the same. So this advice applies not only for the military but also for the career as well.
Yes, and you cannot be ashamed. You cannot be shy. You have to, show up, take responsibility, and the opportunities will show up. And the thing is, I would say, you you are what you want to be, and the limits are actually set by yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for a school. Don't be afraid of ask for command. Don't be afraid of going and say, I want to brief this. I'm a subject matter expert in this area. And um, uh, and and you always have to be doing what is right, because there's always soldiers looking at you, and they look at you at how you lead them, and they look at you at how you are on your daily dealing with people. You have to show respect. You have to know your people. And in terms of officers, I would say always, always, always count on your NCO's point of view, because I mean we might know, and we might have the latest, the last word would be what we decide to do, but listen to your NCOs, and especially with this new generation of soldiers that we have, listen to your people. One of the things that I used to do when I was commanding troops at the general officer level, and I was doing my visit to the different units, I will I will get all my soldiers in a room, and I will ask for the lowest rank, and I will bring it next to me, and I will take my rank off my uniform, and I will put the rank on that junior or soldier, and I will say, now you're the general. What can you change of this organization? And you'll be surprised with the great ideas that they have. These kids, 20, 22 years old, with ideas that will make the organization work as uh, as a well-oiled machine. And people were not listening to their ideas and how they saw the army. Because I always tell people, when you're talking about them people, you were talking about me, because I'm the head. So when you're saying, "Oh, those people over there in that headquarters," well, you're talking about me. So now that I can impact what's happening here, tell me what we can do. So that the decision of that soldier that for one half an hour became the general officer, commanding general, those were incredible ideas that most of the time we implement it, and sometimes we kind of tweak, but we made it work. So it's important to listen to their input too.
It's a very beautiful lesson on leadership, and I love the story that you just shared about putting that patch on the soldier's uniform and let them generate ideas. That's definitely a very nice approach. Oh, I want to say thank you for joining me today, for sharing your story, Jose. It was
Hmm.
my pleasure, and um, yeah, I'm just honored to learn from you.
Thank you, Danny. And again, uh, I'm always here. If anybody needs a little bit of mentoring, need a little bit of guidance. I mean, I'm not the expert in everything, but I know I can probably provide you a couple golden nuggets that will help you. Maybe not, but once a soldier, always a soldier. So I'm always here to support the soldiers that are coming up, and especially they gotta trust in their abilities and their skills, and they're gonna be the leaders of the future. So they have to take this profession very seriously, especially when you start leading soldiers. Those people rely on your judgment and your skills. So Again, Danny, I appreciate the opportunity to share with your audience. And again, I mean, I'm here in case anybody needs uh, any type of mentoring or advice. I'm always here for you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I finished.